Now let's go into the next phase of the prediction, and that is protests become contagious. They cascade, they sweep the Middle East, we're there, and begin to stabilize Europe and the rest of the world. Well, let me give you two stories out just today. I mean, this has been an incredible few days for our predictions. Add two more to the 12 that we've had in the last week. Two more. This one. 4 UK jihadists plead guilty over economic terror plot was the headline today. What was that? Well, they were just going to try to collapse Europe and the Western way of life. Then there's this one. Iran is launching a Spanish-language satellite TV channel. I mean, I always watch the Iranian movies. They're always so good. I just haven't been able to get them in Spanish yet. What do you think that's all about? They say it will deal a blow to dominance seekers. By the way, that would be you. This is the latest effort from Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to reach out to friendly governments in Latin America. He's already doing it over here. He's already doing it with Cuba, Venezuela, friendly forces in Mexico. It's happening. Spreading the hatred of the West. And boy, there are forces in Latin America that love to hate the West. We will address this and the spread of the caliphate with three incredible guests that have been ringing the alarm bells alongside of me and probably long before me for years. You need to hear what they are going to share with you. You will not hear it in the mainstream media. We do that next. Joining me tonight are three men that have been sounding the alarm, and I think paid a pretty big price for it. First guest is a man of honor and integrity and has great pride in our military. He recently withdrew from an invitation to speak at a prayer breakfast at West Point because of a couple of progressive groups and one Islamic group, CARE, said his views are offensive to Muslims. And in the end, he didn't want to shed any negative attention on the military, so he withdrew. We invite him here today with pride, and we are honored to have him here and honored to call you friend, sir. I have not heard anything from you that has ever been dishonorable. We might disagree from time to time, but never dishonorable. And I will tell you this, that I want to start this segment for all three of you guys. No, let me finish it. Let me just finish introducing everybody first. The general is here. Then you know this gentleman who has been with us for several months, and you have been doing all kinds of works for GBTV. You work at CBN, which allows you to say some of the things that nobody else is allowed to say. So we also have Frank Gaffney here, who is the founder of the Center for Security Policy, and he has been with us for I don't know how long, saying the hard things as well. You, Eric, have said the hard things for so long, and General, you have paid a heavy, heavy price. When we were in the break, I brought out this scripture because this is the scripture, and I don't think I've ever shared this before. This is a scripture 5 or 7 years ago I read, and it spoke to me and scared the living daylights out of me because, and I bet you all three have had similar experiences. When I read it, I realized, oh, crap, it's talking to me. And I want to give it. It's Ezekiel 33. The word of the Lord came to me and said, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against a land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people. Then if anyone hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet but did not hear the warning, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person will be taken because of their sin but I will hold the watchmen accountable for their blood. And I did the calculation in my head in about 10 seconds about how many people could have heard the trumpet that I could have blown. And I take that seriously, and I think you guys do as well. In general, I know you do, because of the personal cost that you have recently taken. Before we get into what's coming, and you guys are going to help us kind of go through all of this, do you want to comment at all on what's happened to you at West Point?
Well, Glenn, first of all, let me say that I use that scripture in a lot of my presentations because I do believe that we are called to be watchmen as people of faith. I was asked to speak at West Point at a National Day of Prayer. The Council of American Islamic Relations, combined with a couple of atheist groups, as well as the Military Freedom Foundation, came out in strong opposition against me. It became a very big news story. There was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of media associated with it. And so I spoke to the folks at West Point. And after a discussion with them, I decided that the Army is under enough stress right now. The leadership does not need to be diverted from what it really needs to be doing right now, which is taking care of our troops and their families. So I withdrew from this after a lot of soul searching, to be very honest with you, because I didn't want to give these people a victory. But I think it's indicative of the state of affairs in our nation today. And Frank and I were talking about it before we came on. After Nadal Hassan killed 13 people at Fort Hood and wounded another 27 or 28, the very next week they had Louis Safi, a known associate of the Muslim Brotherhood, who, by the way, Frank tells me is now in Syria leading the opposition, who came and gave cultural classes at Fort Hood. But tolerance does not go both ways. So I'll leave it at that.
Frank, tell me about that. I mean, I tell you something. I've never been so offended in my life when they called that a workplace shooting. I mean, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? And it's not just the administration. It's all of us. We're all in this. We all saw it. We're not going to be excused for that. We saw it. We tolerated it. We didn't speak up. And I mean, did the press really make a big deal out of that at all, Frank? I mean, give some of the details of what happened there and who's involved here.
Let me back the lens up for just a second, if I can, to go back to Ezekiel, because I don't know that it was the inspiration for this, but there's actually, in the U.S. Code, a felony offense that tracks with what the Lord said he would hold the watchman accountable for. If you know treasonous activity is going on, seditious activity aimed at destroying the government and Constitution of the United States, and you do nothing about it, that is a felony offense on your head, not just a crime perpetrated by the seditious sect.
So you would be, all of us, they're saying that we're seditious, they're saying that we're evil people, et cetera, but we know of acts that are they're trying to bring down the United States of America, and they are inside.
They're inside the wire. And just to tie this all together, what has happened to Jerry Boykin and to a former member of Congress by the name of Fred Grandy, now associated with our organization, a radio talk show host, who lost his show, to Stephen Coughlin, one of the co-authors of our book with Jerry Boykin on Sharia, the Threat to America, one of the country's eminent non-Muslim experts on Sharia, who was prevented from performing a training session at the CIA because, again, of people like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, objecting. Ray Kelly, the Commissioner of Police in New York City, is right now having a crusade mounted for his job because he dared to show a film that portrays the truth about this enemy within, this seditious, what the Muslim Brotherhood calls civilization jihad, that they are absolutely, explicitly pursuing for the purpose, yes, of destroying our country. and replacing our Constitution with this doctrine they call Sharia. And for the crime, if you will, of warning against it. For trying to say that this is going on and prevent it from running its course, people like Jerry Boykin are being slimed and, I think, slandered and silenced. And that mustn't be allowed to happen.
I want to point out something, Glenn. And then we had Franklin Graham as well as Tony Perkins that were both disinvited. Now, I was not disinvited. I stepped down. But what I want to say this early in this program today. Frank and I have both said this. There are many Muslims in America that do not support Sharia. Right. That do not want Sharia. And what we have said consistently is they are our natural allies. They are the people we need to engage and give them a voice. They have no voice today. And even people like a very courageous man named Zuhdi Jasser in Phoenix has tried to be a voice for these that reject Sharia. But Frank and I have said consistently we need to reach out to them, not to the front groups for the Muslim Brotherhood like the Council of American Islamic Relations and all of the other unindicted co-conspirators from the Holy Land Foundation.
They're in bed. I mean, they're so deeply in the Pentagon. They're in the administration.
Absolutely.
They're at all levels. They're in our media. They're in our media. I'm really close to telling a story that I haven't told before. I better check with some people before I tell that story. I'm telling you, they're deeply in our media.
Absolutely, and not only the media, Glenn, but the government. The Obama administration knows. This administration has made a conscious decision, as Frank has said, as Jerry has said so eloquently. They've made a conscious decision to embrace the Muslim Brotherhood. They know what the Brotherhood is all about. They know about the Brotherhood's goals for America. Our own government, Glenn, in 2004, uncovered Muslim Brotherhood documents in a home just 10 minutes from Washington, D.C., of a leading Muslim Brotherhood operative. They have the Brotherhood's blueprint for America. That blueprint says, destroy America from within. The FBI, our government, has this in their possession. So they know. It's not naive. They're making a conscious decision to empower the Muslim Brotherhood.
You said to me, I think a week ago, I said, I'm very concerned about the military. And I'm concerned that things are happening, that there are people inside. And you said, have faith in our military. And I know you pulled out yourself, but I have to tell you something. If I'm on the other side of that table, if I still have control of the military, if I still have that shield of the military, I stand and I say, excuse me, but we will have people here who are good, decent Muslims, and they can pray, and we can have people who disagree and point out that our enemy is trying to destroy us, and it is radical Islam, period. Where are those people?
Remember this, one of the fundamental tenets of our form of government is civilian control of the military. The military reflects the policies of the administration. So what you're seeing now, I think, is the...
Let me go here then. I have to take a break. They're yelling at me, so I took my earpiece out. Let me go here. Back to what you said and answer. At what point are we in so much trouble that you can't let people dismantle it anymore because we're in trouble? They are dismantling us from the inside. We know it. We have their documents. We have their names. We have everything. We have their evidence all over the world and their own words. At what point does somebody say, this is treason and there's no more blood to let here, or this patient's not going to get up off the table? We'll start there next. Fair question. Fair question.